Okay, so round two, back with Sam from London.
Hello. Uh, yeah, I wanted to get into the effect of psychedelics on our culture because there's undoubtedly been so much influence that they've had on it, especially with religion and Christianity as a case that shows that there's a real link between Amanita Muscaria and Jesus Christ. That some people say that Jesus Christ is just a metaphor for the mushroom itself,
Yeah.
like that its physical structure. There are tons of images on Google that you can see where Christ is depicted as a mushroom, almost as a mushroom, or with mushrooms around him, and that's just on a visual level. The Dead Sea Scrolls, well, I think that's what they're called, talk about how there's just a lot of evidence in the Dead Sea Scrolls that prove that Christianity was basically a completely pagan religion. It wasn't some kind of new, a new discovery.
Yeah,
It was,
it's that religion isn't born out of Jesus because have you seen the film Zeitgeist?
no,
Okay, very interesting film. You might want to
write that
write that
down.
one down. Zeitgeist. I don't know exactly how it's spelt. It's German for
Rings a
um,
bell.
kind of like the spirit of life.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that
This
word.
sort of thing.
Not the documentary.
Yeah, and so that talks about this. And basically what it talks about is that there's been about 30 instances throughout history whereby there's been the Son of God born of a virgin, and there's been three wise men or three kings or three prophets or something joined, and then this Son of God died on a cross, and this, that, and the other. And even in Egyptian terms, there's
Yes, I have heard about that.
yeah, very, very similar stuff. And so all religions, they derive out of the same religion, which stems back thousands of years. And so, of course, it gets very, very cloudy as to what really it did derive out of. But fundamentally, it seems that it's all metaphor, because if you
Yeah.
listen to people like Bill Donahue,
Hmm.
who is an American guy who interprets the Bible, interprets the parables and the metaphors in the Bible into very logical, rational sense. And it's all about the astrology, it's all metaphor. And when they're talking about heaven and hell, it's all left side brain, right side brain, and all this business. And so there was no Jesus, there is no God,
No.
and all the stuff that's
And
supposed to happen.
Jesus is a completely recycled figure. I mean, it goes from pagan to ancient Egypt to Anunnakis to the Mayans. I mean, Horus. There's so many similarities between Horus and Jesus.
Exactly. And so Horus is the Egyptian god. And I think before Horus, he was called Hermes Trismegistus, the Atlantean. And
Oh
so,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, Hermes
Heard about that.
Trismegistus, the thrice named. And so whenever you see Jesus, you see him holding up three fingers all the time: the Father, the
Oh
Son, and the
yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
Ghost. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice named, three important names. Was he the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? Yeah, all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It all stems from ancient history and metaphor and parable and human psychology. And so, getting back to the mushrooms, then you see Jesus depicted even in stained glass in churches, like built
Yes.
500 years ago, and all this sort of thing.
Unbelievable.
What was the relationship with Jesus and the mushroom? Well, Jesus is the mushroom. The mushroom
Yeah.
is the higher consciousness, the kingdom of God within you. Truly, I say unto you, the kingdom of God is within
Yeah.
every one of you. When
And
you
it's also
take
kind of got a phallic symbol as well. The mushroom, when it's just sprouting, there's something phallic about it. And Gian Marco Allegra, I think is his name,
yeah,
says how the phallus is sort of uh, linked to the act of sexual creation that God has on the planet. So the phallus is that incarnation of God's sperm, in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, well, the phallus being the mushroom.
Yes, well, you see, when you look at the vast majority of the creatures on Earth, then the phallus is responsible for creation, and so the phallus, therefore, God could be deemed to be the phallus because it's responsible, metaphorically speaking, for creation and this sort of thing. But not only, you mentioned the Amanita muscaria. The Amanita muscaria, to my knowledge, isn't related to Jesus. It's related to Santa Claus.
Oh, that too, yeah.
It's related to the Siberians. It's related to their culture.
With
it's related to Saint Nicholas. It's related. Sorry, hear me? Okay.
It bugged out for a while.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
retrace a bit.
I was just said it was related to the Siberians. It's related to Saint Nicholas, of course, who became Santa Claus, and Santa Claus.
The elves that are depicted with Santa Claus.
All the elves and fairies and all this sort of thing. And
yes.
So when you read that book, what you just quoted there, what was his name again?
John Marco Allegro.
Yeah,
that's his name.
John Marco Allegro. So he wrote about, what's it called? The sacred...
the sacred mushroom and the cross.
That's right. Sacred mushroom and the cross. And so therefore he's drawing an analogy between those two, and they're very, very closely related. However, I'm not so sure about the Amanita muscaria, because in my experience, it isn't a psychedelic. And
really,
yeah, lots of people say you see, it has an effect on the GABA receptors rather than on the other receptors, what DMT has an effect on. You see, when I took Amanita muscaria, many times I never ever had any psychedelic experience. I had an energized experience. I had a pagan experience. I had a lycanthropy experience.
I heard that it's almost like drinking alcohol, but it's got some kind of energetic thing to it.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It makes you buzz. It makes you come alive. This lycanthropy is when you think you are a wolf. And this goes back to ancient times. And so I've often speculated this when I've been speaking about this, that is it because that my deep ancestral paganistic roots were coming through to me via the collective consciousness, because I
could very well be. I saw you as a fucking Viking.
Very wolf-like. I howled and howled and howled, and I ran through the water, and I was really a Viking.
You were in it. Yeah. You were in it.
I was proper in it. And so that's what it's always given me. It's never given me any visions. If you close your eyes, you don't see nothing. And so therefore, I don't consider it to be a psychedelic. And most accounts I've read of it say it isn't a psychedelic. But of course, you get people passing out on it and going zombified. You get people doing all sorts of different crazy things. But
yeah, it all really does depend on subjectively. But I mean, when they talk about eating the flesh of God or the flesh of Christ.
Yeah, flesh of Christ.
Well, the sacred mushroom is always referenced as the flesh of the gods through a lot of different cultures. So when thinking that Christ is a mushroom, when they say eat his flesh, that when they're having the Last Supper, the reason why they become one with everything is because perhaps they are eating that very mushroom. Might not be Amanita muscaria, who knows? But the fact, that idea is very compelling to some extent.
Yeah, and of course it's all metaphor, because the 12 disciples, the 12 disciples are the 12 astrological signs, and the Son of God is the Sun God.
Yes, and the same as Horus.
Yeah, and so when you look, and many Egyptian gods, as from Akhenaten, I think Akhenaten was the first one. He was the father of Tutankhamun. He was the one who broke away from the previous gods of Seti and Seth and Seti and all the rest of them. And he started to worship the sun. And then when his reign finished, the Egyptians, they smashed every single thing he'd ever created. They carved out his name from everything that had ever been carved upon, and really tried to destroy and disown him from ever being in existence. And so that was a really curious thing.
Yeah.
Difficult to know why that was, because we don't have any written history about it. But let's just have a look at the Amanita muscaria. Now, the Amanita muscaria, for those people that don't know, is this red and white mushroom that we get in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it's the, what do you call it? It's the mushroom, basically. It's the mushroom that the kid thinks about when he's drawing one.
Yeah, it's the mushroom that you see depicted in fairy tales and on front of kids' books.
Yes.
It's also called the fly agaric. And so it is a red mushroom, and the white dots, what they are remnants of the membrane which covered the bulb of the shroom, and it's kind of like a penis coming out of a glannis, or coming out of its foreskin. The glannis coming out of the foreskin.
Sexual about it,
and having remnants of the foreskin on, which actually stuck to it, adheres to it, and so it's sprinkled with the remnants of the foreskin or the membrane, which is white. And so these are the white dots on it, and it's supposed to be highly poisonous. But it is said that you need to eat about 15 kilos of this mushroom raw for it to kill you. Who's going to eat 15 kilos? And so it is absolutely bastardized or demonized. It is absolutely not.
Do you put them in the oven to get rid of the ibutenic acid or something like that?
Yeah. And so what you do is, this is one way, but the more effective way is supposed to be just to dry them out. That's what they say. And so this is what the Siberians and other cultures were doing, because they never had ovens. Okay, they could hang them near a fire to dry them out, but they couldn't heat them up to the temperature which is depicted in lots of YouTube videos. They say you got to heat them up at 190 degrees. And you leave the door open so the moisture can evaporate, and then the mushroom gets very, very dry, and then that makes the ibutenic acid deteriorate, and so you're only left with the muscimol that you want to give you that fun time. But there's lots of speculation, lots of people. And what I found about this mushroom is there's no consensus to it. And it's all down to the individual. It's not like magic mushrooms. Pretty well you can get a consensus what you're going to experience with those. But Amanita muscaria are very, very different. And so I took, on 2 occasions, 20 grams. 20 grams is an enormous amount. And both times I took that amount, I vomited it within about 20 minutes. And then I felt absolutely fantastic after I vomited, because I felt really queasy and horrible.
You purged, basically, similar to ayahuasca.
And then about 2 or 3 hours later, it takes that long before the surge of energy comes about.
Wow.
Which is absolutely remarkable.
I'd love to experience that. I would absolutely love it. There's talking again about Santa Claus and Amanita muscaria. The notion of Santa Claus and Amanita muscaria being related is that this, basically what would be delivered through the chimneys of tribal houses would be that mushroom itself. So it would be like a trip venerated by the gods. They saw this guy called Santa Claus as some kind of god, right?
Yeah, well, what they're speculating with in this John Allegro book is that in Siberia, they've got these wooden single-story buildings. And because they had open fires in them, then they had a chimney because it's wood and it's thatch and all this sort of thing. So you leave an opening in the middle, a bit like a wigwam or something like that of that nature. Yeah. You have a fire and you somewhere for the smoke to go out. So in the deep winter, when the snow would be so high, there wouldn't be an entrance to the house in the normal doorway. And so they would have to put ladders up onto the roof and then climb down a ladder in the center. So I guess that's
Yeah,
where the whole Santa Claus thing
that's where
derived
the
Santa
idea
coming
kind of
down the
stems
chimney.
from. Yeah.
But it was the Amanita muscaria coming down the chimney. And you see, Santa is clad in red and white.
Yes.
And the Amanita muscaria is red and white. Santa comes down the chimney. The Amanita muscaria came down the chimney.
And also to mention the reindeer, because pagans and shamans used to drink Amanita muscaria from the urine of reindeer. And that's why Santa Claus has reindeer, because the ibutenic acid gets filtered through the body of the reindeer. So the urine itself is just the muscimol.
Yeah.
Fascinating idea. Really
yes,
is.
and so all that sort of stuff. And I've yet to drink my own piss, having having ingested Amanita. I'm no stranger to drinking my piss. I drank it for 6 weeks.
Oh
And
yeah.
Didn't have a problem with it at all. And so I don't have an issue with that. And so I'm going to do that hopefully this year. But you see, being away a great deal, then that's an issue, because you don't get Amanita muscaria in so far south as here, because it's not moist enough. But I really do miss foraging and finding and partaking in that mushroom. And so,
well, I heard though that Portugal is actually a really good country for drugs, because they've been legalized, because they don't see sort of drug addicts as bad people. They see them as ill people who have diseases. So they've legalized all sorts of psychedelics. So I would say it's quite easy to get psychedelics where you're living right now.
Well, I mean, it's kind of curious, because albeit that it is said that the legal, and this was the impression I was under, when you get people selling marijuana, they come up to you in the street, you want to buy smoke? All this sort of seedy business going on. I want to say to them one day, what the fuck's wrong with you? It's legal here. Why have you got to go?
Yeah,
You want
that
to buy
seems
smoke?
absurd.
Making it so precious and rare and illegal.
Come to my van.
I've got some. Yeah, all this business. And
maybe there's some secret agenda.
Maybe there's just these pathetic, seedy characters. That street vending marijuana or the lies, because they can't make it any other way in life. But
I suppose it is quite tough.
I've been approached by like a 10-year-old kid selling me cocaine, or trying to sell me cocaine. Hey, mister, you want to buy coke? And he's sitting there with his 2 elder sisters, who were about 13 and 14, and his mother. They were gypsies, And I looked at him and I just goes, what the hell's wrong with you? Why aren't you and your sisters at school? What are you doing pushing drugs at 10 years old?
Yeah.
And he looked really taken aback and affronted by it. And so when you got a 10-year-old openly selling coke in the street, then I think there's a certain...
That's conditioning
leeway
at play right there.
To it, yeah. But anyway, let's kind of finish off on this Amanita muscaria, because that's an interesting subject, which is very in depth. So we had a look at the Jesus thing. And Jesus is absolutely related to the psychedelic mushroom. And then we have a look at Santa, and Santa is absolutely related to the psychedelic mushroom. So what on earth is going on? These two beliefs that we're so entrenched in our modern societies are both derived out of psychedelic substances, or deemed to be psychedelic. I mean, the reason why I'm questioning this is with the Amanita muscaria, because I haven't discovered it to be psychedelic, but it is a life-enhancing, a performance-enhancing substance, and this is why.
So do you get any visuals from it?
No.
Are there visuals?
No.
Oh wow.
Listen. This is a strange thing, because I say I had no visuals, but I had one of the most remarkable experiences that I've ever had on Amanita muscaria, and it was when I saw the leaf falling out of a tree on an autumn day. And I saw this leaf. It took my breath away. I shrieked out as if I saw an angel. I thought I did. I didn't know what I saw. I saw a leaf, but it told me that it was God. It was an angel. And I peeped into another dimension, and I will never ever forget that. So
it's undeniable that it's linked to the transcendent. It's definitely some
yes,
kind of
there's something there, because this is the only time I've ever experienced that. And although I didn't at the time attribute it to the Amanita Muscaria, Paul said it has to have been. You know, you was on it that particular day, and so you were being a fucking wolf and a Viking, and you know, all this stuff going down, and so an absolute marvelous experience. So something to it then, and so when you look then at these rituals that we do, the Christmas ritual, and the whole thing about Jesus.
Yeah, it's all just a recycling of our roots, basically. We're just going back to what we used to do hundreds,
Only hidden from
thousands of years ago.
the original thing that was all about.
Exactly.
Instead of bringing freaking chocolate and toys down the chimney, they brought Amanita Muscaria.
I mean, and it's quite likely as well that what was being shown in the Bible or in the Dead Sea Scrolls was, if it did have to do with the Amanita Muscaria, it was definitely kept very secret. I think people, even back then, wouldn't have been so open to having psychedelics as the prime ingredient to spiritual enlightenment, you know?
Yeah, well, you see, there's a guy called... who's the guy that wrote the DMT molecule, spirit molecule?
Hoffman, Dr.
Strassman, Rick Strassman.
Yeah.
So he wrote his subsequent book, and it's all about the religious experiences in the Bible. And he's studied thousands and thousands of religious literature from all around the world, and he's compiled all this information. It took him many years to do this, and what he's conveying in this second book, which I forget the title of, that all of these religious experiences seem like psychoactive experiences, like the sort of thing you can experience on shrooms, on DMT, on ayahuasca, on mescaline,
meditation.
Or even in the meditation, you can have, you know, very profound experiences. But
it's undeniably a psychedelic state. That's the foundation of it.
Yeah, and so we're with Moses and the burning bush, and then Jesus walking on water. Well, goodness me, you know, if they were taking DMT 2,000 years ago, and how the things that you could come up with.
And as well, there's so much boost. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like McKenna was talking about, dancing elves. If they saw them 2,000 years ago, then they could have seen anything 2,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely. And when Moses sees the burning bush with God in it, that's just a complete metaphor for the acacia tree, which actually grows very much in the place that he was reported to be in. The acacia tree is the biggest source of DMT on our planet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite likely that they were doing DMT back then, which is a crazy thought, but it's very likely. It's what could have developed our psychedelic understanding to this day.
And I would think, you know, many, many different varieties of psychedelic, like, you know, the mescaline cacti
Peyote,
coming from the Americas or something like that. Look, people traveled in those days, and I'm pretty sure that when they were going to foreign lands and they're packing up their you know, spices and silk and all this, that and the other, then they would have had, you know, a decent sack of psychedelics as well, because they could share those with powerful people and gain some influence. Might get themselves killed if they have a bad trip. If you go to another land and you go to the leader and I've got some, you know, serious shit here, and then they take it and they throw a bad one, your head will be on a fucking pike, mate, the next day. So yeah, got to be careful about that. but yeah, very, very, very curious, and lots of things to talk about and debate about. And so I think we'll wrap this one up in another 5 minutes.
Sure.
And we'll give the viewer 2 nice videos to get their heads round, and I'm sure they'll appreciate greatly seeing you again, because they are very eager for more communication from one another. And
yeah, we need to spread the word out.
Definitely. So I had a great chat with, like I say, Mark, and you'll see that video. That will be uploaded again tomorrow with the same as yours. And
Cool.
so we'll just keep doing more of it. And what we're doing is because I'm promoting this Zoom thing, and so we all can have the facility of Zoom. It doesn't cost us a thing. It doesn't cost us to view and chat and record.
It's perfect.
And then to send the copy of the recording, if people want to send them to me, that doesn't cost either. We can do that on Sprend very, very easily, and then I can upload them. And so it's simple. It's all working out, very, very finely so far. And so all we need to do is just communicate a little bit more, keep tuned in, once a day or every other day or something like that, 5 or 10 minutes, just to see what's going down, and see if there's any new videos up, and just gain a level of intimacy with one another, because it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So have you got any other questions for 5 minutes, just to round it off?
I had something in my head just not long ago, but it's kind of wandered off.
Because I think we've been talking now for a good 2 hours, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, we could just call it here, to be honest. I mean,
yeah, we'll just leave it here. I think we've rounded off that video nicely. And so, yes, once again then, Sam.
That was awesome. I love talking to you.
Very nice to talk to you. Great conversation. And so happy to have you aboard. Look forward to seeing you more, as will the other members. And so if you decide that you want to speak with one of the others, having seen how they are on a video, then
I'm up for that.
Bang a message underneath. And or if you're not bothered who you speak to, then just say, I'm up for it.
Sounds great. Yeah. I'd love to speak to Jonas, actually. Jonas.
He's not around. He's not a member of the site, and I haven't spoken to him for some time. And the reason being is because he didn't want to get involved and tied in and roped into this whole YouTube thing. He wanted to discover the world for himself. And so that's what he's doing. He's spending
I understand that.
Most of his time self-discovery rather than listening to other people's words. And so, I think we need balance. We need to do both, in actual fact, because you can't discover all the knowledge about this world just walking through the woods. You'll get a great relationship with yourself, but you're never going to know what the machinations are of the leaders and the all the history and all this sort of stuff. So
you have to go through the mire to understand it.
and so. You have to have another
I'm definitely up to talking to anyone on the site, get to know them through the videos, and
brilliant. So there you go, then, people. There's another source of inspiration for you. Hope you enjoyed these 2 videos, and we'll look forward to seeing you again, mate. So keep in touch. Until then, have a great time doing whatever you're doing, mate.
You too.
Cheers, bud.
Goodbye.